Hey, how's it going, YouTube? Today, I got the story about the rise and fall of DC's biggest Asian superhero. So, let's go to the breakdown. Starting off, we're talking Batgirls, specifically Barbara Gordon, the Batgirl, the one everyone knows about. However, in the words of Darth Vader, there is another. Last week, we covered Stephanie Brown. This week, Cassandra Cain. Cassandra Cain is DC's most capable, effective fighter on the planet. But how did she get there? Born to one of the world's most dangerous assassins, David Cain, Cassandra was isolated from a very young age, practically from birth, to be trained to be a living weapon. Nothing else mattered but the mission. And that mission was death, to be the most capable killing machine any human could be. Keeping her from human contact meant that the language receptors in her brain, her communication skills, were stunted, prevented from ever forming, and instead, different connections were made. Cassandra learned to understand language through fist on flesh, understanding body language to a degree that no one previously had before. She knew how you would move before you even made a single step, making her one of the most effective fighters her father had ever trained. But it also meant she could barely communicate to anyone else. She was reliant on her father. Finally satisfied with the weapon he had trained, David Cain sent his daughter on her very first assassination mission at the young age of 8. She went and succeeded at the mission perfectly, treating it like a game. However, her father's teachings had a drawback. She couldn't understand language, but when she took a life, she could look into that person's eyes and see them screaming internally. She saw the pain, the fear, the fragility of life, and it scarred her. That single mission, her first mission for her father, changed her so fundamentally that she ran away, becoming unmoored, wandering the earth, lost and without a home, because she felt so guilty and so lost. Cassandra Cain's story picks up 9 years later, when she's 17, entering Gotham for the very first time, the event known as No Man's Land. The government has ruled Gotham off as a failure, leaving it to the hands of criminals and Batman. But before we continue with Cassandra's story, let's take a break and jump over to Barbara Gordon, the main Batgirl. Barbara, in The Killing Joke, had been crippled and assaulted by the Joker, in an incredibly sexist story that just destroyed Barbara's character in order to prop up the suffering of her father, Jim Gordon. Thankfully, the writers at DC were able to salvage some good from this terrible mess, and Barbara picked herself up and became the hero known as Oracle, operating from her wheelchair and her computer, becoming the main intelligence hotspace for the entire superhero community. Meaning, there was a Batgirl position open to be filled. Thus, when Cassandra Cain joined the fight in No Man's Land with the Bat family to wrestle control back from the criminals, Batman and Barbara saw enough potential in her that they gave her the Batgirl costume. Now this was a really significant and important moment in Cassandra's life. Last week I talked about how Stephanie getting the Batgirl costume was proof of her worth, of how far she had come. But for Cassandra, the bat symbol was an oath to never again take a life. However, this oath went to an extreme. Batman during No Man's Land noticed that Cassandra had a death wish. She felt so guilty of committing the unspeakable act of murder that she put herself in situations that no person could reasonably expect to make it out alive from. But because she was Cassandra Cain, she did. So Batman told her she had a choice. She could continue to go on these suicide missions, or she could continue to fight for the lives of the people that she was trying to protect and for her life. She chose the latter. This begins Cassandra Cain's journey as Batgirl, where she gets the starring role in her very own book. Supporting cast includes Barbara Gordon, who serves as her mother figure, her mentor, her friend, who tries to teach her how to read, write, speak, how to live life as a normal human being, and tries to get her to appreciate all the things she missed out on being raised by an assassin like David Cain. And her father figure, Bruce Wayne, Batman, who gives her his mission. But no matter how important Barbara and Bruce were to Cassandra, there's an important theme throughout the book, and that is that Cassandra wasn't just loyal to any person, not to Batman, not to Barbara, not to her father David Cain, but to the symbol, the bat symbol of preserving life, of the mission of protecting life. Cassandra Cain continues to grow throughout the Batgirl book, learning what it means to be a hero, while also forming real human connections. She becomes best friends with Stephanie Brown. The two bond over how they're both the daughters of failed criminals trying to make a name for themselves and escape their shadows. Stephanie is Cassandra's light, Cassandra is Stephanie's shadow, the two completing each other in ways no one had ever before. She also befriends Tim Drake, the third Robin, and even goes on a date with his best friend, Superboy, Connor Kent. Cassandra Cain's run as Batgirl continues on in glorious fashion, making deeper ties with the Bat family, fighting bigger villains including her father, and then, at the height of her popularity, after 7 long years of being Batgirl and proving herself to be DC's biggest Asian superhero, DC cancels the book, crushing the hearts of Batgirl fans everywhere. Now you might ask, why? Why would they cancel the book if sales weren't doing bad? Well, it's because they were trying to make way for a new Batwoman book. That's right, DC thought that having a Batgirl and a Batwoman book would be too much, so they threw Cassandra Cain to the wayside. And heartbreakingly enough, that Batwoman book didn't even come to fruition, so it was all for nothing. With the safety of being the star of her very own book stripped away from her, Cassandra Cain's trajectory in the DC universe took a downward spiral. This marks the beginning of the dark ages for Cassandra Cain fans. After her solo is cancelled, she appears in multiple other books. But, interestingly enough, not as a hero, but as a villain. A puppet of Deathstroke, mind-controlling her to do his bidding, killing, becoming an assassin, joining the League of Assassins. She is no longer the hero, the flagship Asian hero of DC. She's just another puppet, and Bruce Batman calls her another troubled young child. Where is the respect, DC? Where is the respect on the name of Cassandra Cain? When Tim Drake, the third Robin, saves Cassandra Cain, the mischaracterization continues. DC says that Cassandra Cain wants revenge and she's out to kill her father and Deathstroke for what they've done to her. Cassandra Cain, in her right mind, wanting to kill. I can't express how wrong that is, that a girl who fought from nothing, pledging to never take a life again, wanting to kill the very people who made her kill before. It's just so wrong. When she finally catches up to her father, and in the ensuing fight, David Cain is left hanging from a cliff. Cassandra stares on at him, thinking, I should just let him fall. This isn't killing him. After everything he's done, to me, to the world, the criminal he is, he deserves to fall. It's not killing him if she just lets him fall. But even after everything, after all the abuse and trauma and suffering she goes through because of David Cain, she leaps to try to save him. Because that's the kind of hero she is. Finally, Cassandra Cain, Batgirl, our girl, is back. Seeing Cassandra's efforts to try to save her father, even though he treated her terribly, Bruce Wayne, Batman, decides to adopt Cassandra finally into the family, accepting her position as a member of the Bat family, as Batgirl, as his daughter. This is the moment where the trumpet should be rising, flares should be being set off, because Cassandra Cain was finally the adopted daughter of Bruce Wayne. She had her place again in the Bat family. She just wasn't another troubled child. She was a hero with a place. However, Batman dies, and with that tragedy, Cassandra feels lost. Without her father figure, her mentor, to guide her, she decides to give the Batgirl costume to Stephanie Brown, who she believes has earned the title. Cassandra Cain decides to go to Hong Kong to become the Batman of Hong Kong with her new title, the Black Bat. Cassandra Cain's run as the Black Bat was short but wonderful, lasting from May to October of 2011. The design of Cassandra Cain's costume, the potential of the stories as the Batman of Gotham inspired hundreds of fan art and hundreds of fan work, which was important because after October of 2011, Cassandra Cain fans were about to be in a crisis. You might remember I called Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, Oracle, the main Batgirl, and that was true in the minds of the heads of DC and in the general audience. This mythos that Barbara Gordon was Batgirl, the one and only. The heads of DC even had Batman say, "Barbara, you were always meant to be Batgirl," completely disregarding the character arcs of Cassandra and Stephanie, both who had held the Batgirl title. But because Barbara Gordon was the face of Batgirl, supposedly, when DC rebooted their universe, resetting all the storylines, starting back from square one, Cassandra and Stephanie were nowhere to be found, and Barbara Gordon was once again Batgirl. Eventually, as timelines continued and storylines progressed, Stephanie was brought back as Spoiler. As Spoiler, she had a place in the Bat family. However, Cassandra was introduced as Batgirl, and Barbara Gordon was Batgirl. So there was no place left for Cassandra, and for 5 years, from 2011 to 2016, there wasn't a single appearance of Cassandra Cain in the main continuity. She was gone. They took our girl from us and gave us Barbara instead. 5 years. That's a long time in the minds of the general public. And after those long 5 years, her place in the Bat family, her legacy was pretty much forgotten. Now don't get me wrong, in 2016 she was introduced back into Detective Comics in an amazing storyline where she's best friends again with Stephanie and Tim, where she has a new friend in Clayface who teaches her how to speak and learn language through their mutual love of Shakespearean plays. She currently is the star in 2020 of Batman and the Outsiders comic book, where she's kicking ass as one of DC's most dangerous fighters. However, something is missing. And what's missing is the bat symbol. The manifestation of her oath, instead of being Batgirl, instead of having her place in the family, her codename right now, since 2016, is Orphan. Cassandra Cain, the girl who was taken in by Barbara Gordon, by Batman, was adopted by Batman, is carrying the name Orphan. And that's how new fans of comics have known her. For the past 4 years, since 2016, she has been the orphan of the Bat family. Everything DC has done to Cassandra Cain is frankly unacceptable. The worst part about it is that both fans of Stephanie and Cassandra have to fight it out over who deserves to be Batgirl more, because according to DC, there can only be one. Stephanie at the very least got her final celebration outing as Batgirl. Cassandra didn't get anything like that. It was all taken away from her before she was shoved into obscurity. But thankfully, in the year 2020, the year of Cassandra Cain, things are finally looking up for our favorite Asian superhero. In January, Shadow of the Batgirl was released, a graphic novel designed to get younger children into the Cassandra Cain character, to know her story, her heroism, and for her to be their champion. Back in her role as mentor, Barbara Gordon guiding Cassandra through the city of Gotham, through her fight to move past her father and become a hero. And then Cassandra Cain had a starring role in The Birds of Prey. And while that adaptation of Cassandra was in no ways accurate. It put Cassandra back in the spotlight, because if you remember, I stressed the fact that for 5 years, we didn't get Cassandra. From 2011 to 2016, we didn't get a single main in-continuity appearance of Cassandra, and that can be hard for readers. 5 years is a long time, and it's easy to forget. But Cassandra's been the front page now. And now, as of the week of September 26th, Cassandra Cain is going to be returning as Batgirl in Batman Joker Warzone. Batgirl, back again, just as she's supposed to be. The rise, the climb to the top begins here, so please, support Cassandra. Show DC we want our girl to get her justice, and that we love seeing her back in the Batgirl costume. It's what she deserves. So I want to hear you in the comics. Did you know about Cassandra Cain before? Did you read about her before 2016? Or did you join because of the Detective Comics run, just like I did? Man, Cassandra Cain and Clayface, what a great pair. Or have you been a fan all these years, just waiting for Cassandra to take her role back as a prominent member of the Bat family? Or did you just learn about Cassandra Cain? Did you emphasize with her struggle, with her rise to stardom, and how it was all taken away? Now she's slowly but surely climbing back up to the top. I want to know, if you like this video, please leave a like, turn that gray thumbs up button into blue. And if you want more content like this, I got videos coming up, so hit that red subscribe button and turn it gray. Thanks for watching.